The Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus said, I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. When the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you into all truth, for he will not speak on his own, but will speak whatever he hears. And he will declare to you the things that are to come. He will glorify me, because he will take what is mine and declare it to you. All that the Father has is mine. For this reason, I said that he will take what is mine and declare it to you. The Gospel of the Lord. Our gospel text is a powerful message where Jesus speaks to his disciples about the coming of the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth. The Greek word is parakletos, the paraclete, the advocate, counselor, all those words we use. And in his discussion to the disciples, he has acknowledged their limitations by saying, I have much more to say to you, more than you can bear now. This statement reflects the disciples' inability to grasp the full depth of Jesus' mission at that moment. But Jesus does not leave them without hope. No. And in our Romans passage today, in our second reading, Paul talks about hope does not disappoint. Yeah, I could have gone over in that direction and spent a long time over there. But I love the farewell discourse of Jesus. And Jesus is now promising them the Holy Spirit who will guide them into all truth, he says. Literally, he says, into all the truth. Well, previously, the disciples had been told by Jesus that the Holy Spirit would help them to understand what has already happened. But now Jesus tells us that the Spirit will also disclose things to come, or in other words, things that the disciples at that time could not yet see. Although Jesus describes the Holy Spirit's actions in a future tense, we read them as already transpired or continuing to transpire in our Christian walk. In other words, Jesus is presenting the Spirit as the Spirit of truth of all time, helping us to discern the time in light of God and the gospel. Jesus assures his disciples that the Holy Spirit will not speak on his own, but will declare what he hears from the Father and the Son. Now, the gospel writers use the masculine pronoun, he and him, to describe the Spirit. Linguistically, that's not really the case. Linguistically, the Spirit, both in Hebrew and in Greek, is feminine. In Greek, they refer to another synonym of the Spirit is Sophia, wisdom. Of course, we get the feminine name, Sophia, wisdom. I keep saying he and him because I'm quoting the text, but don't make the mistake of thinking that I observe or discern or imagine God as male. God is male and female. God is neither male nor female. But anyway, Jesus goes on and says, that he will declare what he hears from the Father and the Son. And this draws into sharp focus the unity within the Trinity. The Trinity. Well, in Christian theology, that's one of our anchor points is a Trinity. Whether you're Catholic or Lutheran or Calvinist or anybody else, the Trinity is a ironclad thing. Problem is, we can sometimes draw a hard and fast line between Father, Son, and Spirit so that we almost wind up with polytheism, more than one God. Augustine had a very good discussion about that. He said that my name is Aurelius Augustinus. My mother only knows me as a son. My son only knows me as a father. My best friend Alypius only knows me as his friend. And yet I remain Aurelius Augustinus. That's pretty good. Now, the problem was that in the theological discussions of the time, before and leading up to Augustine, there were those who were using words like person. And it made it sound like, yeah, three different persons. But the fact is that the phrase being used, persona, was really the phrase that was used to refer to those masks. You know, the two masks that you see to illustrate drama and tragedy. The mask that they would hold up to their face, and the tragedy has the downturned mouth, and the comedy has the upturned mouth. That was the persona. It was the mask. Sadly, the great Cappadocians, Basil of Ancyra, Gregory of Nazianzus, and Gregory of Nyssa, had all said kind of misleadingly that Father, Son, and Spirit share the same essence in the same way that Peter, James, and John shared the essence of humanity. Oh boy. This is why Islam has such a hard time with this idea of Trinity, is because they encountered people who thought like the Cappadocians. If only they had encountered an Augustinian, maybe things would have been different. Still, the unity within the Trinity is none other than the unity of a person. Augustine, again, in his book De Trinitate, the Trinity, discusses the Trinity even inside of us that we have. Anyway, the Spirit does not act independently, but is in perfect harmony with the Father and the Son. The Spirit's role is to illuminate the truth, helping believers to understand the deeper reality of God's kingdom. All right. The phrase, he will guide you into all truth, is pretty significant. The Spirit doesn't simply provide information, but leads believers into a transformative understanding of divine truth. This truth is not just an intellectual pursuit, but comes from experiences that shape our lives, that convicts our hearts, that deepens our relationship with God. And the Spirit's work is to bring glory to Christ. Again, not just magnification, not just, oh, aren't you great? Oh, you are so big. We're all impressed down here, to quote Monty Python. It's not that. Glory is in bringing creation back to God, to bring creation under the lordship of Christ. So Jesus says, the Spirit will glorify me because it is from me. The Spirit comes from Jesus. It is from me that he will receive what he will make known to you. And the Spirit's mission is Christ-centered. The Spirit does not seek to draw attention to himself. but to magnify, to bring into focus Jesus. This means that any true movement of the Spirit will always point back to Christ, leading believers to worship and follow Christ more faithfully. Too many times, we're tempted to diminish the Holy Spirit as some sort of errand boy for the Father and the Son. Almost like you think of Hermes or Mercury in Greek and Roman mythology, the one who was the messenger of the gods. You know, the guy with the wings on his feet. And that's possible if we misread our passage from today. A casual misreading of today's passage seems to imply a lack of novelty regarding the Spirit. The Spirit does not speak on the Spirit's own, but only what the Spirit hears. The Spirit glorifies Jesus by taking what is Jesus's and declaring it to us, and more like that. We're tempted to feel like the Spirit is some sort of middleman for Jesus, a representative for Jesus, when in fact the Spirit is the counselor, the advocate for us. Many of us have what we call a Christocentric bias that sometimes causes us to leave off recognition of the Father and the Spirit when we're talking about God. Yes, Christian theology is Christocentric. Christocentric, of course, meaning that Christ is the center of our, well, yeah. When I was in grad school one time, I was criticized by somebody for being too Christocentric. My response was, is that a thing? I mean, is that possible? Yeah. Christian theology is Christocentric, but Jesus spoke regularly of his connection with the Father and the Spirit, and our text today is no exception. Part of our bias is because it's easier to understand the fully human and the fully divine person of Jesus Christ than it is to understand the transcendent God and the immanent Holy Spirit. This is exactly what Jesus is trying to tell us in his discourse to the disciples regarding the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is the one who makes us understand truth. The Spirit shares this same desire with the Father and the Son, that is, to be known by all of creation. The Spirit, the Father, and the Son all have the same message for us. They all have the same ultimate purpose for us and the same commitment to see truth prevail. And it's the Spirit who comes and lives with us forever in a way that the Father and the Son did not and do not. But again, if we're talking about the Holy Spirit, we are talking about the Spirit of the Father, the Spirit of Christ. Paul uses all of those words, the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of Christ. He uses all those phrases to describe the Holy Spirit. But this is what makes God omnipresent. The fact that the Spirit is present everywhere, on everyone, in everyone. And it is the Spirit of truth who is actively guiding us into things that are new to us. Not new to God, new to us. This is no small thing in one person's life, but imagine the magnitude if it happens in every person's life. How can we understand Jesus promised that the Spirit will declare to you the things that are to come? That statement continues to confound us sometimes. Is this talking about things that are the end times? Does it have to do with the apocalypse? No, indeed. It is much more general, a much more general sense about the signs of the age and the time in which we live. Jesus told us about needing to be able to discern the times. This is what he means when he describes the Spirit's message. The Spirit's role is to prepare the church to be relevant, to be prophetic, to witness to our times, if we will just listen. As Shakespeare said in Hamlet, there's the rub. We can hear the Spirit speak and declare, and we can discern the way the Spirit is guiding us. But we can just as easily ignore the Spirit of truth and pretend we heard something different or that we didn't hear anything at all. In this life, we can certainly refuse to participate in the inner workings of the Trinity. But the only way that we will grow in faith and knowledge is if we listen to God. Listen to the Spirit who has come to dwell within us so that the message will always be close at hand. Just a prayer away. Thanks be to God.